Marco Sturm will be officially introduced as Boston Bruins head coach today. Let's talk about who will be assisting him, as well as who is on the radar as the Bruins draft pick at 7th overall.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Tuesday, June 10th. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Today, we're going to be discussing the introduction of Marco Sturm as the new Bruins head coach, and word coming out that he will hire one new assistant coach, meaning a couple will be retained and joining his staff. We're also going to touch on a couple recent mock drafts around NHL prospect land and discuss who the Bruins may be keying in on at number 7 after last week's NHL Combine. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Before we get started, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. That's Blue Sky, X, Threads, Instagram, even TikTok. You can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I've been covering this team for various outlets for about 20 years now. And the big news today, of course, is the introductory press conference that will be hosted later this morning to officially name Marco Sturm as the 30th head coach in Boston Bruins history. And in a Boston Globe article with Jim McBride, General Manager Don Sweeney confirmed the team will be retaining the services of assistant coaches Chris Kelly, Jay Leach, as well as goalie coach Bob Essensa. And this will provide a level of continuity and familiarity for the players as they transition to new head coach Marco Sturm. Jay Leach, of course, was reported to be a finalist for the head coach job. Chris Kelly's been around for some time, since Bruce Cassidy's reign as Boston Bruins head coach. And it's kind of a significant move, especially concerning Leach. He was in the running for the head coach job, and it's not uncommon to see an assistant coach who was a candidate for the top job depart from the organization after being passed over. And the fact that Leach is staying on speaks to his commitment to the Bruins and the vision of the new coaching staff. The Bruins aren't done with their coaching hires just yet, though. They're actively looking to bring in a third assistant coach, with Joe Sacco having moved on to the New York Rangers. Joe Sacco had been around for a very long time, and he stepped in as interim head coach earlier this season following the dismissal of Jim Montgomery. But after being informed that he wouldn't be holding on to that head coach position, he moved on to join Mike Sullivan's staff with the New York Rangers. Again, Joe Sacco had been around for longer than anybody behind the bench, and it's going to be a big hole to fill. The new assistant will likely be tasked with very special and crucial role, which will be special teams, penalty kill. That was where Sacco dined for his 11-season tenure with the Bruins. Over that period, only the Carolina Hurricanes have had a better penalty kill percentage than the Bruins at 82.8. Now, part of that, of course, is due to Zdeno Chara being around, Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, who's scoring shorthanded goals in the Stanley Cup final. Last year, though, there was a significant dip in this area of the Bruins game. The penalty kill operated at around 76% success rate, putting them 24th in the NHL. So the new hire will have some big skates to fill and a clear mandate to get the Bruins' shorthanded performance back to its elite level. Pro hockey rumors throw out a few interesting names this morning. One is former Anaheim Ducks head coach Greg Cronin, who's known for taking a hands-on approach with special teams. He had expressed interest in the Bruins head coaching vacancy, so there might be a fit for him in this more specialized role. Other penalty kill-oriented coaches seemingly available include Dave Lowry, formerly of the Seattle Kraken, Brent Thompson, who was also with the Ducks. The Bruins list of potential hires is likely more extensive than just these few names, though. So the Bruins are building a blend of old and new on their coaching staff. Kelly, Leach, Essensa will provide stability, and Essensa working his goalie magic. Hopefully he can help Jeremy Swayman refine his form, because that's going to be huge in terms of getting Marco Sturm's tenure as Bruins head coach off to a great start. A new assistant is going to be needed to shore up the penalty kill. They're going to need to find some creativity power play wise as well. So it's going to be a critical hire for a team that wants to get back to being a dominant force on special teams. And we'll be keeping a close eye on who the Bruins bring in to round out Marco Sturm's staff. Now, again, Sturm is going to be officially announced as the head coach this morning. Well, he already has been, but he's going to be introduced to the media. There's going to be a press conference. And on tomorrow's podcast, we will break down everything we learned from Sturm, Sweeney, Neely about the head coaching hire and why it is that Sturm was tabbed as the man and what he is planning to bring to the table as the new Boston Bruins head coach. As a side note, I was reading a profile on Mass Live from Chris Mason, who talked to a bunch of former AHL players of Sturm's, and players from his AHL teams painted the picture of a smiling coach who's demanding yet not overbearing, meticulous in his planning. Sturm knows how to win games and what he needs from his players. His expectations are high, but not unrealistic, because he's personally done it before. And Ontario Reign forward Taylor Ward said he's a calm coach, a straight shooter. He'll tell you how it is. He'll tell you what he's thinking. That's really all you want as a player, to know where your coach stands in terms of how the team is doing, how you're doing individually. He'll let you know good or bad, which you appreciate as a player. He's also a guy who builds camaraderie, according to goalie Phoenix Copley. And again, I am super excited about Marco Sturm as head coach of the Boston Bruins, and we're going to discuss tomorrow all the things we learned from the introductory press conference today. Coming up on today's episode, we're going to pivot to the draft and discuss a couple prospects that are jumping out on mock drafts as the likely selections at the 7th overall pick for our Boston Bruins. You just realized your business needed to hire someone like yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? It's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites, because Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. You can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. All you have to do is go to Indeed.com/LockedOn right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Boston Bruins. If you've been in a spot where you need to hire like yesterday, the pressure's on, every day without the right person is a setback, jump on this $75 sponsored job credit by going to Indeed.com/LockedOn right now. Terms and conditions apply, but if you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. unmute here. Thank you once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. It's free. It's available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're talking about how it appears as though the majority of the assistant coaching staff is sticking around. I can see Jay Leach. He was a finalist for the head coach job, widely respected. Bob Essensa, one of the best goalie coaches in the NHL. Chris Kelly, that's a bit of a toss-up for me, seeing as he oversaw the power play, and that was a particular area of weakness last season. Maybe they're hoping with a full roster and some improvements there, maybe they can turn things around. For right now, we're pivoting to draft talk, and there are some new mock drafts out there that kind of give us an idea of what the Bruins might be able to get with the 7th overall pick. The Bruins need a top 6 center who can be a franchise player for a long time. And while there are projected to be a bunch of centers taken early, the Bruins should still get someone pretty impressive. And one guy who appears to be jumping up the list is Brady Martin of the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds of the Ontario Hockey League. 72 points, 33 goals, 39 assists in 57 games this past season. A big improvement from 28 points in 52 games he posted the year before. It's been reported that several teams took Martin out to dinner last week during the NHL Draft Combine in Buffalo, and the Bruins were indeed among them. He disclosed on Friday. He also had dinner with the Flyers, Predators, and Mammoth, all of whom are drafting ahead of the Bruins. An impressive two-way skill set, sets a physical tone each shift. He compared himself to the likes of Sam Bennett, Tom Wilson. His playmaking skills are very strong as well. Kind of shot release power to be an effective goal scorer. Combination of high-end offensive ability and defensive responsibility just screams Bruins. And, of course, we all know they really value that 200-foot game. So, looking at a couple of mock drafts, we have Scott Wheeler of The Athletic, who projects Brady Martin being selected by the Bruins. He writes, if Martin doesn't go in the 4 to 6 range, the sense I get, this is Scott Wheeler's words, is that he doesn't get past the Bruins. If he does go in the 4 to 6 range, that could mean James Higgins surprises a little and gets here. Or the Bruins pivot to O'Brien. They're probably the start of where Roger McQueen gets consideration as well. If James Higgins drops to 7th, the Bruins are laughing and grab him immediately. But again, it's possible that Higgins will be taken earlier and the Bruins go for a player like Brady Martin. That's what Corey Pronman of The Athletic suggests as well. Martin brings an intense, physical two-way game while also having excellent skill level. He's a potential top two line center that Boston desperately craves and plays the way the Bruins like. I should add that Wheeler has Matthew Schaefer going first, followed by Michael Misa, Anton Frondel, Caleb Desnoyers, Porter Martone, James Higgins to the Flyers, and then Brady Martin to the Bruins, with Jake O'Brien falling to the Kraken. Corey Pronman's mock draft has same thing, Schaefer, Misa 1-2, followed by Frondel at 3, Porter Martone at 4, James Higgins 5, Caleb Desnoyers at 6, and Brady Martin at 7. Now, if Martin does go higher to, say, the Predators or the Mammoth or the Flyers, that would mean that one of maybe Higgins, Desnoyers, Porter Martone could drop, or Frondel could drop to the Bruins. So Brady Martin's profile being elevated is only a good thing for the Boston Bruins. Dauber Prospects describes him as a bull in a china shop, comes packed with skill skating power, and raw strength. And they write, few players go hard in the paint like Brady Martin. His competitiveness, his intensity, and his confidence pop off the screen with every shift. Nobody will question his effort, especially not with how physically he plays. That said, Martin is more than a wrecking ball on skates. He's bringing a ton of skill too. He's a force in transition due to his raw strength, and he brings soft hands to go along with it. It's not uncommon to see Martin challenge a defender in the middle of the ice, just for Martin to immediately make a move into space to leverage his powerful shot. While he's relatively new to the first round conversation, Martin has been pulling eyes all over the NHL since he's been given the reins with the Sioux Greyhounds. It's possible we have another Jet Luchenko on our hands. Luchenko, of course, was drafted last year by the Philadelphia Flyers and began the season in Philadelphia. So that would be a great get for the Boston Bruins. Now, there's some other players mentioned with respect to that 7th overall pick, notably Jake O'Brien. And we'll discuss a couple other mock drafts and what they have to say about Boston's potential pick here as the podcast continues. There's absolutely nothing like playoff hockey. The energy, the rivalries, the nonstop action. With the Stanley Cup final well underway, there's never been a better time to see it live. And Gametime makes getting in the building fast and affordable. Gametime gives you last-minute ticket deals, zone deals for deep discounts, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing with no hidden fees. Plus, ticket prices often drop the closer you get to puck drop, so you can score big without overpaying. Last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater near you. I love the seat view before checkout, which gives me total confidence in my purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. All right, so Corey Prom, Scott Wheeler of The Athletic have the Bruins going with Brady Martin with the 7th overall pick. Another mock draft on NHL.com via Adam Kimmelman has the Bruins selecting Jake O'Brien from the Brantford Bulldogs. The Bruins will pick in the top 10 for the first time since 2011, Kimmelman writes, and can target O'Brien, who elevated his game during the second half of the season with his poise, vision, playmaking ability, and willingness to play hard all 200 feet. The 17-year-old can slow the game down in the offensive zone and find scoring opportunities for himself or his teammates, can check other teams' top players, and play in all situations. Now, in that same mock draft, Mike Morreale of NHL.com has Porter Martone dropping to the Bruins at number 7. Right-handed power forward, has a proven scoring touch, leading Brampton with 61 assists. That's Brampton Battalion of the OHL, 98 points, 29 power play points, while serving as captain. And that's all in 57 games. Boston Lee could certainly use a powerful forward with game-breaking potential, and Martone, who has been compared to Edmonton forward Corey Perry, fits that bill. Now, above them, both these guys are kind of split when it comes to the top 7, obviously. Both have Schaefer Misa going 1-2, Frundell going 3, Caleb Desnoyers going 4, Kimmelman has Roger McQueen going 5th, with James Higgins being picked 5th by Mike Morreale. Others have Higgins being picked 6th, Jake O'Brien being picked 6th, and Brady Martin doesn't come into the conversation until the 10th pick, where Mike Morreale has him going to the Ducks, and the Penguins taking him at 11. Now, when it comes to Jake O'Brien, been a steady climber this season thanks to his terrific production with Brantford. This is according to Dobber Prospects, who calls him a quick, intelligent playmaker with room to grow into his 6'2" frame. He is matching his outstanding junior rookie season by scoring well above a point per game pace with the Bulldogs this past season. He projects as a potential top 9 playmaking center with lots of room in his frame to grow. When it comes to Martone, Dobber Prospects, and this is where I go for a lot of my fantasy stuff, but also guys on the ground who are watching these players. They say he may not be this was in January. He may not be getting buzz for first overall, but it's hard to find issue with his body of work. He's been one of the CHL's best this past season. Big winger with edge and a huge bag of tricks. Has used his frame, physicality, shot creativity, and highlight reel hands to run roughshod over the OHL, leading by example as captain of the Brampton Steelhead, battalions in North Bay. Didn't have the best World Junior appearance, but he had ridiculous production in the OHL. Again, 98 points in 57 games. And he's described as a big winger with an edge and a huge bag of tricks. Now, with all of this, obviously the Bruins are kind of at the mercy of who is taken with the first 6 picks. If someone kind of goes off the board and takes a Brady Martin, then one of the perhaps more highly rated centers could drop to them. So it's kind of a win-win. Either you get Brady Martin, who's a very good player, or you have a guy like Higgins, or maybe not Frundell, but O'Brien, Desnoyers, perhaps even, who drops down to that 7th pick for the Boston Bruins. One other mock draft, this from Tab Banford of Bleacher Nation, going with O'Brien with this pick. He writes, O'Brien's stock continues to climb. He's gone from a guy in the early teens to being a clear-cut top 10 prospect with potential to slide all the way into the top 5. The Bruins desperately need to add depth down the middle, and will have options here. Boston moved back 2 spots in the draft and the lottery, which makes O'Brien a more comfortable pick. Again, they're at the mercy of the 6 teams ahead of them, whether or not they reach or go safe. Either way, the Bruins will be getting a very good center, and thankfully it's a very deep draft at that position for this team. Martin might be popping due to some recency bias with regards to how teams want to play, like the Florida Panthers. They see that recipe for success. You see a Sam Bennett. You see Brad Marchand out there. You see the grit with which they play, the ability to score and get under people's skin. And maybe that's why his stock is rising a bit. But either way, it's for a good reason. And he would be a very good get for the Boston Bruins if indeed he's there at the 7th pick. So the big news today, Marco Sturm about to be introduced. I will break all that down on tomorrow's episode. Coaching staff largely retained. Bob Essensa coming back. Chris Kelly coming back, which is a big question mark in my mind in terms of how the power play went last season. Jay Leach coming back. Don't disagree with that. He was in the running for head coach. It's good to have some continuity there. And he, of course, instrumental in developing some of the Bruins' younger players. Joe Sacco gone to the New York Rangers, so they will be bringing in another assistant coach, probably to help with the penalty kill, which was not as strong last season. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. I really do appreciate it. Brad Marchand out there doing Marchand things once again. I think I've covered that ad nauseum. Go back and listen to yesterday's episode about what the Bruins could and should have done with Marchand, whether it was the smart move to trade him, they should have traded him elsewhere, I saw this morning Patrice Bergeron even wrestling with the feelings of cheering for the Panthers and being able to compartmentalize Marchand getting a cup with the Panthers. Tricky things to navigate here. No right answers. Feel how you will about all of that. Do check out the Locked On NHL Game Night podcast next. Everything you need to know from every game, every night until the cup is lifted. It's available on the Locked On NHL podcast feed and the YouTube channel. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much again for joining me. Please do take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here on the next episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.